Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 Last Days of Europe with me, Alpha Pi Omega, and Greater Germanic Reich. So one thing that we actually haven't checked in the previous episode was, because we finished some of the infrastructure already, what was the effect on the growth of our GDP? And it is happening. We had plus 0.111 and now we have plus 0.115. So yeah, it is having an effect, if a small one, but we are investing in the right places, and our debt to GDP has been decreasing significantly. This spike was because of the Adler. As you know, that one costed quite a lot, but it is now part of our navy, and as it is there, well, we just have to keep it that way. We still need to deploy though some of our air force on it, because we don't have any aircraft there. Bloody Ferdinand. The so-called monster in uniform of the Wehrmacht, Field Marshal Ferdinand Sherner, has made a name for himself during the Second World War as a talented strategist and a brutal commander, leading troops in the invasion of both Poland and the Soviet Union. Despite this, while glory in the war has helped him, Despite this, while glory in this war was heaped upon him by Erwin Rommel, Hans Speidel, and even Hermann Göring himself, the Field Marshal's name as it's known today is not looked upon favorably within wider bureaucratic circles. Ever ambitious, Sherner desired nothing less than to be head of the entire Wehrmacht itself. Though a brilliant military man, his skill was not enough. His dreams of promotion were dashed against the rocks of reality by his cataclysmic performance during the West Russian War of 1950s. Yeah, that's actually one thing that I haven't mentioned before. I know that the Reichskommissariat Moscovian was attacked, I think probably by the Russian Revolutionary Front or some other nations, and it was very bloody and very bad for the Reich as well. Though I haven't really read much more about it, not to spoil it for myself. So maybe if someone knows, please let me know. But I will probably run it through the playthrough. Considered a failure by many, and generally despised by both subordinates and superiors alike, Sherner has nonetheless forged a path as an influential leader in the Reich's militarist faction, and is considered to be Hermann Göring's #1 man. To the likes of Hans Speidel, who he despises, his clique is little more than a psychotic band of saber-rattlers. To Sherner and his followers, however, they are the saviors of a decaying and dying German. A noble band of warriors demanding greater power for the Wehrmacht and an increased sphere of German influence in Europe and beyond. Well, with the money we have, I don't think that's actually a good idea. That would not lead to any happiness among the people. Okay, so let's speed it up. Now political power is dwindling. Free cars. Have we finished the ships already? Oh yeah, we finished the Lützow cruiser. So let's put you on the 2nd Tracker Division. And I think we might start modernizing. Actually, I can upgrade you. Oh god, that would be expensive. Army cruiser, M-class. Yeah, we cannot unfortunately see what kind of ships we have. So these are all the same type. So would there be something that we could upgrade? Not the engines. Nope, we got the torpedo tubes very well adjusted. Okay, we have 4 ships of the Admiral Hitler class. So let's see if we can do something with them, because I would rather have less but more capable ships than build more. Wait. So it's under production. Admiral Hitler. That's a cruiser. Admiral Hitler, here it is. So armor, 40mm quad. Okay, so we can improve the anti-air. What was it? Rapid fire gun? Yeah, rapid fire cannon. Yeah, we could equip them with light cruiser batteries. That would make them slightly stronger. And what is this? This is is it an anti-air? Yeah, that's an anti-air. Okay, I think this is good. It's gonna cost us 12 naval experience. And we can also improve the secondary batteries here. So let's do that. So, Admiral Hitler class 1962A refit. And we're gonna send you guys to... where did we have you? Here. Admiral Hitler class. Yep. And do we have any of those here? Actually, I don't think so, but... yeah, not really. Okay, well, at least we're gonna fix those 4. So we're gonna get 0.12% growth in our GDP. That's good. Per month, that is really decent. And I mean, this is gonna just continuously increase our performance as far as factories go. Okay, oh wow. So, let's start with the Führer speaks. Excitement filled the streets of Germania today as completely unannounced the Führer appeared on the balcony of the Führer Palace this morning and began an impassioned speech to those below. Hitler, seemingly in his nightwear and dressing gown, quickly drew a crowd of early morning commuters, government employees and starstruck tourists from the colonies who could not believe their luck at seeing the Führer in person. Gesturing wildly, and at times making little sense, the Führer decried how he could not sleep thinking of how the Reich's many enemies constantly plot against us, denouncing the Jewish capitalist world, and spoke of how the German people must unite against the threat of Bukharin's degenerate Bolshevik regime. He has lost it, Jesus. After almost 10 minutes, the Führer barely drowned out the screech of a government vehicle coming to a halt behind the palace, a group of men hurrying inside. Moments later, Martin Bormann appeared on the balcony beside the Führer and, smiling nervously, gently ushered him back into the palace, citing security concerns. On their part, the crowd hung on every word and continued to applaud and cheer long after their beloved Führer has returned inside. Oh god, it's like taking care of a baby. I think we got away with that one. Okay, lost another political power. The Führer Museum. Oh god. Dr. Kauerbrand wiped the sweat from his forehead as the Führer began his speech, flanked by 2 grand podiums. There were only a few dozen people in the crowd, but not a single one was unimportant. Reichsminister Werner Neumann and representatives on the RMVP stood with famous artists and reporters on the of the state press. Hitler's pompous adjutant Julius Schaub was shooting daggers at Martin Bormann, who was just watching the Führer like a hawk. They were all nodding respectfully as Hitler began to discuss the late painter Adolf Wissel, pretending to ignore the 2 trembling hands thrust awkwardly behind his back. Despite Brandt's severe protestations, Schaub has insisted that Hitler travel to the Führer Museum in Linz to officially open the new art exhibition, including a newly commissioned sculpture of my successor. Now, unfortunately for the young man here today, it is the curse of great artists to die before their time. Adolf Hitler passed away only a few years ago, and Brecker, recent death has wrecked the world of sculpturing immensely. The crowd slowly turned to the left podium, where Arno Brecker was frozen still, his eyes darting fearfully around the room. Brandt wiped his forehead again with a drenched cloth. Many of you are too young to remember the days of degenerate art. The Führer trailed off. His whole body suddenly tightened up as he staggered into the right-hand podium. Brandt's blood turned to ice. Hitler's arms violently jerked out and his head snapped forward, slamming into the marble podium with a sickening crack. A gasp of horror exploded from the audience as the Führer crumpled to the floor, blood pouring from his forehead, arms and legs still writhing. He has a seizure. A woman screamed. A man yelled a curse. Rachus Misch was yelling at the crowd to stay back. Bormann rushed forward and slipped on the blood with a yell, staggering into shout. Brandt turned Hitler onto his side and inspected the wound on his forehead. It was just a cut. The doctor shot sharp a glare as the uproar reached a fevered pitch. Dang it! The darkest corners of the Volkshalle. Felix had never seen such a grand city as Germania fall into such a disarray. Never in all his years serving the Reich as a foreign diplomat had Felix felt this worried about his country. With Hitler away, one could feel the immense pressure weighing down on the citizens of Germania. Crime rate increased, everyone was taking sides, even the military was fracturing. It was as if Hitler's condition left his body and plagued an entire city. No matter, Felix received his orders and believed it would be his last. When he read the destination, the Burgundian embassy, he hated Burgundy. Each time he passed the embassy, there would be 2 people present at the most. Burgundy liked to keep things secret and provided only the minimum amount of staff needed to get the job done. And the few diplomats were skilled. They would only respond in short phrases, and if you pushed them to say more, you would be glared at. Such was the nature of the shadow state, Felix pondered. Felix was walking slowly through the Volkshalle towards the Burgundian embassy, but the question pierced his thoughts. Why was he needed to talk with the Burgundians? What could he expect from them? The tension of the city was pressing on him, and his body began to churn as he saw the door. Germany was failing, and Burgundy knew it. Would he be killed if he went in there? Would he die in the office with the giant Himmler portrait under the black banner? Even if he needed to speak to the diplomat, Felix realized he shouldn't get a response. There must be something big developing between Germany and the shadow state. The door was in reach now, and all Felix had to do was open it. Nothing. The large room that once housed the Burgundian embassy was emptied, cleaned, and only the walls remained. This was all planned, Felix thought. Burgundy left the burning country to die, and they would not be coming back. Well, not a great thing. Himmler, right? Okay, so we got the logistics company 2 finished. I wanted to look into the recon company 3. Most of these texts are 1965, right? Yeah. So there's nothing really here. You might want to look into the anti-tank equipment and... Okay, let's go with the improved anti-tank equipment. Again, we cannot really do anything with the military, so improving, for example, the logistics company is fine, but I don't know of any unit actually using it. Yeah. But eventually we might get it. Well, there is an air assault company here. Interesting. Okay, deficit is still going well. We lowered the debt to GDP by 0.1%. Arthur Calwell becomes a Prime Minister of Australia. It appears that there is a new wind blowing through Australia, but not quite as new as one would think. The Australian Labour Party have triumphed once more, at the polls despite their scandal 2 months prior, and insider party scheming and politicking has led to an old guard candidate of the right wing of the ALP. Arthur Calval has claimed victory in the recent snap elections in Australia. While the powers of the world eye up Calval's still unclear intentions abroad, that stands in sharp contrast to his policies at home. I'm sorry about misspeaking some of them, but somehow this text is really hard for me to read. The font, something about it is weird. It reminds me of old newspapers, arguing for nothing less than a full liberties for the labor unions that make up the vast industries of Oceania and the unflinching preservation of the white Australia. Calval's will use everything in his arsenal, including his characteristic silver tongue, to move the members of the parliament into voting for his measures. Yes, there is a new wind blowing through Australia, and that wind calls for the downtrodden and dispossessed in society. Australia doesn't have a focus either. It's kind of weird. But I know that they made, the focus is only for a handful of countries. Like, I think 20, something like that. And the rest is fairly, fairly without. Damn, we're missing tons of equipment. Let's look a bit on what we can do here. So as we don't need many more weapons, let's say factories here, let's say some factories here. We can actually lower the basic artillery as well. The anti-tank equipment I'm gonna keep, same with, actually no, not you. Tanks would probably need more, so would the motorized equipment. So I think we can add more to that. Yeah, we need more on the jet fighters and more on the interceptors as well. We're missing the strategic bombs. Jesus Christ, 597. Oh, that is rough. Okay, well, our legitimacy is staying, in the same place as our opponents. Hitler is ailing. That doesn't make me happy. That doesn't make me happy. How's the construction going? We're building prison in Oberschweissen. What is this? A hospital? No, this is a hospital and a school in Oberschweissen, and infrastructure in Magdeburg. Yeah, I mean, the economy is under control now. It seems pretty good. Can't complain about that. For all the intents and purposes, we are not doing all that bad. And when with this debt to GDP going down, we might eventually reach a point where we can start increasing the investment dramatically. Okay, we're appealing to the Reichstag. In the past, the German political establishment had all but exiled Speer from its ranks, given his appetite for reform within the Reich. However, given the Führer's recent proclamation of Speer's successorship, it's been suggested to the Reichsminister that he should perhaps attempt to convince the Diet once more that reform is indeed needed for the Reich. Herr Speer has no choice but to enter Bormann's fiefdom once more and desperately plead his case for reform. As without the Reichstag support, how could Speer ever hope to govern the Gross Germanisches Reich? So we get extra 5 legitimacy, fascism is increased in popularity by 3%, and we get 60 political power. And we finish the radar, industry management, and consumer goods efficiency, and hospital construction 1. So now let's go with the first reform. And we have enough political power to finally look for opportunities. It is said that if you want something done properly, you have to do it yourself. We're going to remove this one for now. In the endless battle for legitimacy among the German people, it is thus necessary to find any opportunity. Let's take a look. There will be possibilities if we just look hard enough. The economic mess. The economy has been on the downturn since the economic crash of the 50s. Many Germans who lost their jobs have remained or underemployed and destitute for the better part of the decade now. Their only means of survival have hinged on the state continuing to provide them benefits. While the economy was crashing, many small business owners closed their doors for the last time. Major corporate interests throughout the country silently consolidated their holdings and bought properties, machinery, and expertise for next to nothing. German citizens were replaced with cheaper slave labor, and their jobs simply never returned. A decade later, wages still haven't returned to their pre-crash levels, even with 10 years of inflation for the few that still work. The German people yearn for some kind of action. We cannot be content to sit and watch our citizens suffer. Something must be done now to give the people some much-needed relief and hope. Unfortunately, it is up to us to decide how to best approach this. So Ludwig Erhard has some fascinating ideas. Okay, that increases our GDP by $250 million and gives us legitimacy. We could always use more workers in the armament factories. So this gives... I get it. Okay, so you have choices here which increases the legitimacy of each of the members. So unfortunately we'll always have to probably go with helping ourselves. Which is kind of funny. Speer's legitimacy will increase by 5 and we get $250 million extra in GDP. Göring would increase forced labor and increase the GDP by a bit. The people need to just trust the National Socialism, so Bormann just gets legitimacy bonus, and we need to return to traditionalist living. So basically we slash the benefits. So GDP... Okay, well... Let's get that, which further decreased the debt to GDP. I'm pretty sure that at some point we might have an increase in credit rating, which is going to be great. Because the interest is going to drop. Effect of debt on interest rates will further decrease. Okay, stability. We're not getting any bonus. And what's the last thing? Effect of debt to GDP growth. Oh, actually, there is a rating here for that. Credit rating. Exceptional and raising. Our current credit rating progress is 70. If we reach 100, it's going to get better. Currently contributing to our progress are our deficit to GDP is below our real GDP growth rate, +2. Our debt to GDP is below 75% of our debt ceiling, and we are at peace. Okay, cool. Oh, and I forgot about research. Okay, so anything in industry that we could go with? No, these are all so ahead of time that there's nothing really here. Oh, did I? Crap, sorry. But there was probably nothing here. Okay, no effect on Hitler. I apologize, I misclicked. I thought that I would just... Damn it, sorry about that. Okay, so we can go with the horizon radar. This would lower the air accidents, naval targeting. That's not exactly necessary. Let's instead go with the companies, because this is a cheap way how to increase the efficiency of your units and requires nothing extra to be done. But sorry, I really am sorry about that one event that I missed. Okay, how far are we from the next? 0.05. Okay. We might get that soon. Yeah, definitely. So what we should probably do here... Getting one per week. Okay. We need to be a bit more frugal with our investments in stuff. And by stuff I mean these things. So for example, we don't need that many guns per day. We got a huge stockpile. And we don't need this either. Nor do we need this. I'll kill this a bit. Kill this a bit. Let's put one more on the tanks. More on you. 2 per week. Let's put you and you a bit higher. But it still saves us about 4 factories, and we can put it in civilian infrastructure, and I can use this to upgrade our agency. So let's get more passive defense to get rid of the enemies of the Reich. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, this is gonna help with the construction. Actually, there was one advice in the comments as well that, you know, the civilian war, unfortunately you guys kind of spoiled that for me, is unavoidable. So we should invest in areas where, and I guess from what I saw, that would be this area would be that we will control Dortmund and the area around. But I think Westphalen would still be a good idea as to invest in, because the infrastructure here might be beneficial for us. So let's just invest in here and build a school, a hospital, and a prison here. Wait, lost production units? Really? No, we're not losing anything. What are you talking about? That's not true at all. That's not true, game. Stop lying to me. Okay, real GDP growth is growing. Is this... Yeah, that's monthly. Okay, so in about 5 months we're gonna get our credit rating increased, which is gonna lower the debt interest, further boosting our GDP growth and deficit. Nice. So things seems to be under control. We dropped the debt to 106%. Real GDP is growing. What about social though? We had some really poor stats here. Our population grew by 3,320,000. Ranks of the poor grew. Agricultural yield increased, but people are dying. And GDP per... Okay, the GDP per capita dropped, but now it's starting to increase. Unfortunately, poverty still seems to be rising in the same way, so we need to address that somehow. Bellone wins the 1962 Peruvian elections. Peru has always been one for chaotic election seasons, and 1962 has proven no exception. As the sun sets on the election day, a widely accepted winner emerges from the swamp of fraud allegations from all parties. Fernando Belaúnde Terry, leader of the AP. First rising to prominence in 1957, Belaúnde was beaten out by Prado. This time around, his promises of liberal change and restored stability of the troubled nation seems to have borne fruit. Belaúnde will not govern unimpeded. However, his coalition holds only a plurality in government, and Odrias Uno has already declared themselves as opposition. Though Belaúnde has offered to work with any party who is willing, the other parties, if united against him, would be able to strangle his dreams. So, Peruvian elections. Fernando Belaúnde Terry, His Excellency Señor Presidente. National liberalism. Born in Lima on October 7, 1912, Fernando Belaúnde, more commonly known as the Architect Belaúnde by his followers, known as Architect Belaúnde by his followers and the Peruvian press, is at once both your typical Peruvian politician and something out of the box and complete. Born to a very prominent aristocratic family with a long line that goes back to Lima's first Spanish inhabitants, and with 2 times Peruvian Prime Minister Rafael Belaúnde as his father, Belaúnde has a comfortable and promising youth. Or had a comfortable and promising youth. After studying in the United States, Belaúnde would come back to Lima and become a rich impresario and extremely famous for his academic and architectural works. Through his father's connections, he would serve many political appointments, which he would only need to abandon during the time of Odrias' regime. He would get involved in politics by founding the National Front of the Democratic Youth, a group of young reform-minded activists which launched his candidacy in 1956 against Manuel Prado. After achieving second place in the election, he would transform the NFDY, that's the National Front of the Democratic Youth, into a full-fledged political party, Acción Popular, AP. Based on his ideas of Peru as a doctrine, he would visit and create AP party cells in every Peruvian city he visited, and he visited them all, which would make him the most well-known and vocal opponent of the Prado administration. Now, after achieving what he couldn't in 1956, architect Bolonda has a long job ahead of him. Many plans are about to be set in motion, but if he has the political finesse that his predecessors didn't, only time shall tell. In Roña Espinilla deposed Colombian government. What? Is it here? Yeah, we have a new leader of the central government of Colombia. The ongoing political crisis in Colombia that followed the death of President Laureano Gomez has reached a tipping point today as General Gustavo Reyes Pinilla. Wait, did he change any? Yeah, personalistic dictatorship, despotism. Has reached a tipping point today as General Gustavo Reyes Pinilla, with the apparent unanimous support of the armed forces, has couped the government and formed a military junta following an attempt by President Urdaneta to remove him. The new ruler of Colombia has indefinitely suspended elections and outlawed the conservative and liberal parties, opting for an autocratic third position path of national development inspired by Castro's Cuba. Meanwhile, the liberal conservative dissidents, made up of moderates who neither belong to the URC or New Granada, have decided to flee to Venezuela, from where they have formed the National Front, a unified force that seeks to depose General Rojas. So wait, is Cuba led by Castro in this timeline? It is, okay, Fidel Castro. Oh, I did not notice that. Why are you still telling me that we lost production units? Oh, compared to last month, okay. Oh, and now we get 3 extra, based probably on the economy. So let's put them in civilian sphere. Okay, well, this is looking pretty good. Pretty darn good. Brazil wins the World Cup. The 1962 FIFA World Cup has come to an end with a Brazilian victory, defeating their host team Chile 3-1 after a hard-fought match. The tournament was marred with violence and tensions, especially during the Chile-Italy match, which was so violent as to be called the Battle of Santiago. The final match, on the other hand, was played professionally and without incident. Chile had to overcome many tragedies in the lead-up to the competition, not least among these the death of 2 of the key organizers before its start. They also had to wrestle with the effects of the 1960 Valvida earthquake, reaching to 9.6 on the Richter scale, the most powerful in recorded history, which was millions affected and caused terrible damage to the country. Infrastructure and stadiums were rebuilt in record time, and no major organizational flaws were reported. I don't know why if it's a running meme or something, but we keep getting these in all of the mods. There's always something about the sports. Okay, we finished the first reform. With the Reichstag seemingly on board with the implementation of reform within the Greater Germanic Reich, the first reform is upon the people of the Reich. However, Herr Speer, knowing how important the first reform will be, as it will be what the history remembers as the beginning of all to come, is still attempting to decide exactly what the commencement of such momentum legislation or legislative action should be. No doubt he'll eventually come up with something worthy of the title as the first. So we increase our legitimacy by 5, change in popularity is of actions by 5, and increase pensions policy effectiveness. So we need to tour the nation next, I guess. Okay, let's tour the nation next. And we get 3 dockyards? Really? Oh, we've already upgraded all of these ships? I am really surprised. So let's see, can we upgrade these corvettes? It's a K-22 corvette, so maybe we'll be able to do something with those. Master class. Zerstörer. Where's the Corvette? Wait. Rostock. Zerstörers. This is not okay. Let's look at the 1944 Zerstörer. No, let's do it this way to keep with it. Which this one, right? This is the one that we upgraded. Where is the this is the one. So we have some battleships here. That's not great. Basic cruiser auto class. And the Leipzig F class Rostock Zerstörer 1944. Okay, let's do 1944. You got me there. So the Zerstörer 1944. Anything we can do here? Yeah, we can upgrade its anti-air guns. This one is okay, better battery. Okay, you got this 2 and AA, and that's about it. Fire control 0. Yeah, that one is not part of the radar. Okay, nothing there as well. And torpedoes. Okay, so this is gonna be... Oh, dang, I need to save the name. Because the game does not allow me to type... Wait, no, what battery? Or could we actually do this? If I change you to the white battery, and you to the anti-air, and you to the anti-air, and you to the white battery, that would decrease the anti-air a bit, but give you a lot of extra light attack. Would that be worth it? 0.4, 0.5. Let's keep it this way. Okay, Zerstörer 1944A. Let's save it, and yeah, you're outdated. So let's hide you and upgrade more ships of the fleet. And we'll have to start drilling them, because it's not like I have excess Navy experience. So let's send you out. Wait, do you guys need... Can you guys get extra XP? Would be a bit weird. I haven't really tried that. Yeah, but looks like they can. Okay, that's gonna give us a decent amount of naval experience so that we can keep rebuilding our units. Unfortunately, the fuel is gonna be an issue here, but hopefully we're gonna get a bunch of XP before things start. Okay, have we upgraded the credit rating already? No, still 75. It's monthly. Okay, well, I'm happy with the current development. I won't lie, the economy is doing good, but the situation in Reich is not getting better. Stability has dropped. The legitimacy that we are having is now same as Bormann, so we are making slight leaps and progress, but I think it's gonna play a big role where we end up with this, so we need to keep focusing on it. Hopefully we're gonna get more nice events here that we can use. I'm not gonna take these anytime soon, because I'm pretty sure that they cost legitimacy, which would lower our ability to do stuff. But we're working through the focus tree, which is good. It's gonna help the economy significantly, because we are improving the efficiency of our policies. With the exception here, we're gonna worsen the situation of the conscription, but the rest is doing well. And then there's the sensible economy, which increases our GDP growth. You get, oh wow, you get war support and organization. too little too late. Oh, that sounds lovely. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll continue in the next episode.